The Minnesota Vikings only have 4 draft picks, right? We already know that. So it's really hard to mess things up. And it's the draft, so it's bound to happen. But with 4 picks, I feel like the Vikings have a good selection, right? It's not too many where you can just kind of go willy-nilly and pick whoever you want, but it's like it's the sweet spot, if you will. It might be a little less or too less, if you will, or too little of draft picks, but I really don't care. I think the Vikings have a great selection, especially in the first round at 24th overall. Now you could say, well, wouldn't it be better if we had a top 3 pick? We could get Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, maybe one of those high touted quarterbacks, if you will, even though we really don't need one. But I like where we're sitting at 24 because that leaves us with options, right? We only need 4 positions or have 4 positions in need. The corner or anywhere in the secondary, safety, cornerback, you get it. Interior defensive line, offensive guard, and running back. That's the only needs I see Minnesota having in this year's draft. And we have 4 draft picks. That's perfect, right? But with the 24th overall pick, it leaves those options open. Who is the best available at a position of need for the Minnesota Vikings at number 24th overall in that first round? That's why I think it's such a great pick because we could go maybe a running back, maybe an offensive guard, maybe a corner, but we could also go interior defensive lineman, and we might have found the perfect prospect, even though he might not be perfect, so to say. I think he might be perfect for the Minnesota Vikings in general. So let's talk about a shout out to our affiliate partners real quick at Green Gridiron. If you want one of these mini helmets, the link for that is in the comments section. Use the promo code MINSYN, MINSYN, at checkout to receive a small discount on your purchase. They have NFL helmets, college helmets, fully customizable ones, and not only do they have the mini helmets, they have the replica ones as well, the big ones. So if that's something you like, you don't have to be a Minnesota Vikings fan. You can get, a Broncos helmet, or you can get, whatever team is your favorite. You can go grab that helmet from Green Gridiron. All you have to do, hit that link in the comment section. Use the promo code MINSYN, MINSYN, to get a discount on that purchase. And if they already have a deal going on, you can stack the promo code to receive even more off of that final price. So let's get right into it. Who is the perfect prospect? Well, the Vikings got an up-close look at dozens of draft prospects at the Senior Bowl not too long ago in Mobile, Alabama. One of those players who almost certainly stood out the most in their eye was Ole Miss defensive tackle Walter Nolen, who could be exactly the kind of disruptive interior force they haven't had in a very long time. Walter Nolen is the Minnesota Vikings pick at number 24th overall in a new 2025 mock draft from ESPN's Matt Miller, who was down in Mobile after a stop at the Shrine Bowl in Dallas. I believe this is what he had to say, or what they kind of wrote down about it. It says filling gaps on both lines will be a major focus of the Vikings offseason, regardless of their decision at quarterback, and Walter Nolen is too great a fit to bypass here. Senior Bowl week was huge for him. Nolen showed scouts his trademark speed and gap-splitting ability, but also mixed in a dose of power that wasn't always on his game tape. The Vikings could be big spenders in free agency, which we were, to lock up a 3 technique, but Nolen is a plug-and-play fit in Brian Flores' defense if that money is diverted elsewhere. I still think, regardless of what we did this offseason, we're going to be looking at filling in the depth at the positions of need, right? Javon Hargrave is great. Jonathan Allen is great. Harrison Phillips is great, but we still need to build for the future. Walter Nolen could be a part of that future, and he could start sooner rather than later. We know Jonathan Allen's getting up there in age. Javon Hargrave's getting up there in age, I'm pretty sure. Harrison Phillips is getting up there in age. So eventually, we're going to have to look towards the future, and drafting one right now could be the answer. Walter Nolen could be the answer, okay? Now, Nolen was one of the players that was highlighted in a story on 6 Senior Bowl standouts who could be Viking draft targets. The 21-year-old was the number 2 high school recruit in the nation in 2022, behind only, other than, the one, the only, Travis Hunter. Okay, he chose Texas A&M, and after a fairly quiet freshman year, he had 4 sacks and 9 total tackles for a loss as a sophomore. But it was last season, after a transfer to Ole Miss, where he really reached his recruiting potential. Walter Nolen had 6.5 sacks, 14 total tackles for loss, and three batted passes in an All-American season for the Ole Miss Rebels, cementing himself as a likely first-round pick. Likely, maybe not going to happen, but you never know. That's why it's the perfect decision at 24, because he could slip out of that first round. What better than Minnesota being like, hey, let's take him before he slips past us, right? Now, he isn't the perfect prospect, but he might be the perfect prospect for Minnesota. You never know. Nolen occasionally gets too high in the stance and is still developing counter moves as a pass rusher, which is why he has a chance to fall outside of the top 20 picks. But after an impressive Senior Bowl week, it's far from a sure thing that he makes it to the Vikings at 24. Walter Nolen is an explosive, powerful athlete at the defensive tackle position. So it'll be interesting to see how he tests and measures, or how he did test and measure at the scouting combine, which already took place. Look, all you need to know is this dude is massive. He seems like a perfect fit. He's powerful. He's agile. It's just the perfect prospect in my eyes for Minnesota. It might not be the perfect prospect because he's not ready maybe to play in the NFL, and he's probably going to fall out of that top 20, out of the top 20 picks, but there's room for improvement. And we have others that will start ahead of him. So why not give him a year or two to learn the NFL game and then put him in motion, put him in the game, right? Stuff like that. So I think it's fine. Now, the Vikings haven't had a star defensive tackle who can rush the passer at a high level since the end of Kevin Williams' prime around 15 years ago. We've had a couple here and there, short stints, but nothing really that's been steady, right? That's a weakness they could and should look to address in free agency, but there's also no rule against adding multiple players in that mold. Even if they do sign a talented 3 technique, it would be difficult to pass up on Nolen if he happens to be on the board at 24 in April. I'd be okay with it. Look, there's a lot of routes Minnesota can go with that 24th overall pick. We talked about him. Running back, secondary, interior defensive line, offensive guard, or you trade out of it and you recoup some draft picks. 5 different things Minnesota can choose to do. What will their decision be? Walter Nolen could be that, and he might just be the perfect prospect. You guys let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Drop a like and subscribe to the channel. It'd be much, much appreciated. Have a great rest of the night, folks, and Skol Vikes.